Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Nate and Josh coming to you guys here with a 7-game slate on Tuesday. We're looking at player props in this video. We also have another one up with best bets for you, so make sure to subscribe to that page and continue to follow along all season with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. We are in full swing up on the site as we get ready for the Super Bowl and a full slate of NBA week action here as well. So check all that stuff out, including that prop finder tool that we have up on the site. You can use that to make sure you're getting the best juice available to you from all of these books that are giving us these bets in the NBA. Nate, let's run right into your first NBA play a prop, Kyrie to God, who didn't quite work out with the points last night, but probably a better matchup and a better market that you're playing here.
Yeah, I'm going 10.5 rebounds and assists for Kyrie, which is still a reliable kind of target, even if Luka plays here on a back-to-back. Both the Mavs and the Nets are on a back-to-back here. And Luka, he's just been carrying an absolutely exhausting workload, 41.5 minutes per game, 37% usage, while Kyrie just came back after a 6-game absence. So definitely trust him to play more. And when you look at, his back-to-back splits, he's only played twice so far this season, Kyrie, but at least he's giving you 35 minutes per game. Like, that's where you look first on back-to-backs. It's like, does this guy drop down to 30 minutes or less on back-to-backs? Or when he's out there, does he actually, give you a full slate? And Kyrie is that kind of guy. Like, he'll miss plenty of games. When he's out there, he's full throttle. And he's underrated as far as these other two categories as far as contributing. I was kind of surprised to see he's gone over this in 10 of his last 11, averaged 6.8 rebounds, 5.7 assists in that span. His assists went way up when Luka was out. We don't know if Luka, anything to indicate he's going to sit on the second half here, but he probably could use a rest for sure. Read into this if you will, but Kyrie averages 2.5 more assists per game against the East versus the West this year, 7.3 assists per game. He had his first shot at revenge against Brooklyn in October, went for 17, 7, and 6, so clearing this. Probably could score a few more if Luka didn't have 49 points on ridiculous usage. Again, I think Luka could throttle down a little bit. We saw everybody throttle down in Philly last night in a weirdly low-scoring game there. And this Nets D, it's just not good at the point guard position, the shooting guard position, whatever you want to call it. They allow the third most points to point guards, third most rebounds to the position last 15, eighth most rebounds overall in January, and struggling to guard the three-point line and limit assists recently. So, give me some revenge for Kyrie going back to Brooklyn.
Yeah, for sure. I haven't looked too closely at it, but I would hope that Luka sits. He kind of came out of the nowhere to play in that game yesterday and beat Philly. Brooklyn as bad as Philly? I don't know. But either way, I don't know that he would play the second night of a back-to-back. He looked pretty rusty last night in and of himself. So let me go over to a weird game, honestly. The Pacers and Rockets. We've got no Fred VanVleet in that one. Still no Tari Eason. Tyrese Halliburton remains questionable, likely to play, probably on the 20 to 22 minutes. Oddly, he's playing the beginning of games and just sitting for the end, which is wouldn't you want one of the dudes who's up for clutch player of the year to be in the fourth quarter? But okay, I guess you're going to put all his 22 minutes in the first 2.5 quarters. That's weird, but okay. So I don't know what to do with that with the total, but for Şengün, great matchup. No Fred VanVleet is going to mean who is the point guard on this team. Now, maybe Amen Thompson and Cam Whitmore come in a bit more, but Ime Udoka needs a point guard, and they ain't it, right? And so Şengün is going to be your point guard. So I'm taking him on the assist if I had to make that clear, over 5.5. Not great odds for that, but I still think that it's a really good number. I have him at least 7 in this game with some of the projections. You look at he's only played twice this year without Fred VanVleet, and one of those was Denver. One of those was the I already forgot who it was, but he got 10 assists in that last game that he played without Fred VanVleet there, and the 13 potential assists is what I'm looking at as well. The last year when he played, obviously there was no Fred VanVleet for Şengün last season, and in towards the end of the season, you saw all those potential assists start to rise. You saw the assists rise as well for him as he started to show off some of those point center skills. At the beginning of the season, I don't think Ime even knew what he had. So in that first game where we had no Şengün and we had everybody else we had Şengün and no Fred VanVleet. My apologies. And then but everybody else was in. Then Jalen Green was the point guard. He was the dude that was running the offense in that Denver game which I think that happened in November. And Ime Udoka took one look at that and was like, what? No, that's not our backup point guard anymore. That did not work out at all. How do you get six assists on 16 potential assists? You must not be doing something right, like putting your guys in situations to score at all. They didn't have very many assists in that game either. So with no other PG on the floor, like I don't think you want Dylan Brooks or Jalen Green running that. Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore not there yet. Indy giving up the third most assists to centers in the league. I do think, Miles Turner, as good as he is on the perimeter on offense, Şengün pulls him out from the basket on when Turner's on defense. They have no shot blocker at that point. They already barely have any rim protection when Miles Turner is in there. And that's a huge reason for the centers like Şengün being able to come out and really dime up and play a little bit more space than just playing with your back to the basket and needing a guy to make a three for you to get an assist, right? So he's going to have the ball in his hands like for the majority of this game is Şengün. And the way that like the recent centers numbers have been against this Pacers team, it's been all season. But at any time they play a guy like Joker, anybody that assists just to go straight up. So I'm going to take him to rather than try to score as much down low, which he's still liable to get the 23.5 points. I like the 6 assists for him.
Yeah, I like it. I like adding the rebounds and the points too, if you want. I mean, rebounds wise, like tacking on 10 rebounds for a guy who's just crushing it. I mean, anytime there's a good matchup, he went for 30, 16, and 5 in this matchup just the day after Christmas. Like you see him come out flat at Minnesota or New Orleans, but yeah, immediately bounce back and eat in a game that is a much more friendly environment. Let me get creative with the second pick here. Giannis over 3.5 turnovers. They are tempting you with the plus 140 at Bet365. See where else you can get that. I mean, he's done this so far in 2 of 4 under Doc Rivers. And, we're seeing the assists really spike. 40 minutes in both of his last 2 games, 23 assists. And with that comes turnovers. I mean, a guy who either barrels into the lane, is a threat for deflections, charges, or kicking it out to somebody who's not there as the Bucks again try to find their footing here on the road. On the season, he averages about 5 turnovers per 100 possessions, 13% turnover rate. Can't hold a candle to Thanasis, who, by the way, leads the NBA in turnover rate by a mile. When he gets out there, it's just absolute comedy. The matchup against Frank Vogel is intriguing here, and the game log kind of confirmed my assumption, which is like Frank Vogel probably has some stuff cooked up to get Giannis. He forced him into 9 turnovers twice in 2021 when he had that Lakers defense. Granted, the Suns not quite as good, but I mean, 3 matchups against Nurkic and the Blazers for Giannis, 6, 3, and 4 turnovers when they were, pre-tanking, 2021 and earlier. The Suns lately have been ramping it up defensively for sure. They're back home after a long road trip, and on the season, they're forcing the 3rd most fouls per game. They lead the NBA now in loose balls recovered, 6th in deflections, forcing the 7th most turnovers. So I trust them to do enough here with Nurk at the back line to force Giannis into some situations. And really, he's just pressing because, you got the coach fired to a extent, or at least signed off on it. Now you got to go out there and win games, and you got to carry this team, which is struggling outside of you. So give me the turnovers.
I like the find. I do. He's going to have high usage, continue to do that. I think the assists are probably a pretty good bet for him as well. The lane ends up being a bit more open at times when, Brolo, when he is down there, obviously he's also a good outlet for Giannis, but either way, it's going to be even more clear, than normal, and he'll just try to get in there. Then Frank Vogel's defense collapses on him. It's tailor-made. So I support it for sure with the plus money. It's really nice. Looking at 36 minutes if they're really trying to win this game for Giannis, close to 40. So I would bank on that. John Collins, let me go to that Utah game and let me go back to JC. I thought it would be at 8.5 boards, but we get it at 7.5 for John Collins, newly minted center of the Utah Jazz. John Collins, I called this out the other day. He squeaked over in the last one with the 9 boards. We get a little tick down and we get a much worse rebounding team that he's going up against. My first thought whenever I see the Thunder playing is who's the center going up against Chet that can just gobble up rebounds like it's been happening all season? Jalen Williams with a Y, also questionable if he does play. Backup center, better, decent rebounder, but hasn't really been much of a sort of anchor of any kind. So there's not much there that's gonna keep JC from playing. And as I was saying in the game video, if Brook Lopez is actually out, you don't really need Walker Kessler as much. And we already see Walker Kessler's minutes at like 20 minutes. John Collins has been back up to about 29, 30 minutes in his last 5 since he came back from injury 7 games ago. Had 2 games of ramping up his minutes, didn't get this number, and then went over in the last 5, where his rebound chances since he came back even 7 games ago. And truly, like I said, even though he received fewer minutes, he was the starting small ball center. And the Jazz just play small ball at this point. There's no real center other than when Walker Kessler comes on the floor. Don't tell me Kelly Olynyk is a center. So that means John Collins is really left out there to be that guy that's standing in that position. The Thunder allowed the 3rd most rebounds per game, 2 centers. Chet just what does he need? Like 50 pounds probably before he's like a true NBA center that can defend dudes that are his height anyway, right? And John Collins might give up an inch or two, let's say 2 inches to Chet Holmgren, but I definitely still think he's able to man him out of the paint. So yeah, I don't really have much more for it. This is just one of the worst rebounding teams against one of the best rebounding teams, and the newly inserted best rebounder and most important rebounder and center on this team is John Collins. The books should be aware of this, but maybe they just don't think people will take any kind of John Collins action if the rebounds are too high. I'm happy to take it over 7.5, even if it's juiced down a smidge.
Yeah, I mean, the concern last time you took this was that it would be a runaway win, but then Tyrese Maxey drops 50. So I don't think we're as concerned about that with SGA on the other side. Like, no matter what, like OKC should be in this thing. And SGA being out there might be a tougher matchup for Walker Kessler to not be able to stay out there. And then you need more John Collins. You need more versatility, especially for Chet. I think this is a good time to ride him again.
Yeah, I'm gonna. So that's all the time we have for you. Appreciate you guys following along. Continue to do so. Subscribe to that page and check out the best bets video we also have up for you as we do each and every weekday. And until we see you next, happy betting.